everyone, I'm Laura Dale Locke with your City 7 News Now update. The Wichita Police Department and the Old Town Association are teaming up to look at safety issues in the area. We have the Old Town Association President Charlie Claycomb here with us today, along with Chief Tom Stoltz. Thank you both for being here.
Welcome.
Well, Chief, why don't you start off by giving us an update on what's been going on in that area?
Okay, Laura Dale. Not quite a month ago, on March the 10th, there was a tragic set of events that took place in the 200 block of North Mosley shortly before 2 a.m. in the morning in the Old Town District that culminated in police having to use deadly force to stop an active shooter who was on the street. Many of the press that attended the conference on Monday when Chief Williams got up to give a summary of the event asked questions regarding where do we go from here, how do we enhance safety, what's going to happen next. And we had commented at that time, Chief Williams had commented at that time, that we were going to get a strategy into place and that at some point after we'd done some initial analysis and review that we would reach out to the community and tell them what was going on. And that's kind of where we're at today, kind of what we were talking about at earlier this morning's meeting. Just to kind of give you a timeline here, on March the 12th, the shooting happened on March the 10th. On March the 12th, Chief Williams gave the initial press release. And from then on until March 28th, the police department and the Old Town Association worked together and we conducted an environmental scan of that area. There's 28 square blocks in the area that we're talking about here. We went block by block and actually drove it and looked. At the same time we were doing that, we did a total statistical analysis of that particular area, crime trends over the last several years, not just recently, but over the last several years, to determine to see if we could see any kind of trends or tendencies which would show us that there's a problem. And the statistics yielded some pretty interesting information, somewhat of a surprise to us. I don't think it necessarily surprises the Old Town residents or businesses, but the data shows us that first of all, there's for as many people as can be down there, and we're talking when clubs are at capacity, we could have an excess easily of 10,000 people in that area. For as many people that frequent this area, the crime rate is actually very low when compared even to other areas in the city. What little problem we do have, we can isolate to midnight to 2 a.m. On Friday, Saturday, Sunday mornings. We can isolate it to there's a lot of problems in the area during that time and day in the 100 to 400 block of North Mosley. So we can now pinpoint those essentially 6 hours an entire week to a very few blocks, and we can adjust and do some safety security issues in those areas to try to make some immediate changes while we look at the long term. Statistically speaking, the one crime that I guess kind of stood out to me a little bit was the auto larceny rate down in this area, and compared very equally to some of the malls, Town East, Town West, Newmarket, Bradley Fair, anywhere you get large congregations of people parking together. Auto larcenies are going to happen, and Old Town's no exception to that rule. So I think that was part of the thing that we felt we should do something with as soon as possible. On March 28th, city staff, myself included, met with Old Town Association members at the Old Town Hotel, and we very thoroughly went through these statistics. We looked at peer practices in other cities around the country to determine other areas that had entertainment districts, what they were doing. And we had a lot of dialogue at that meeting between residents and operators and club owners regarding potential strategies and next steps that we could take to make this area even better than it is. And as I mentioned, there's not a lot of chronic safety issues down here that we have to address. We decided at that meeting that we were going to move ahead. I'm going to meet with club owners on April the 20th, have a dialogue with them about best practices and some of the problems we may be having down there. At that same time period, we're going to combine with Old Town Association and do a customer service survey of people on the street and business owners. And we had talked about using a facilitator both for the meeting with the clubs and overall with the association to come up with best practice ideas of things that we could do different down there, just tweaking it slightly to make the area a little bit more safe.
Thank you for the update.
Okay.
Charlie, maybe you could talk a little bit about what the Old Town Association has been doing in your role in cooperating with the police.
Well, we really appreciate what Wichita Police Department does for us and for all of Wichita, really. But we've been working with Wichita Police Department for years, and I think that's why it is as safe as it is today. I wasn't surprised by the larceny statistics because our beat coordinator gives us that information every month at our Old Town Association meeting. So we knew that we have a problem from time to time. The police department will put together an undercover sting or concentrate on the parking lots, arrest a couple people, the crime goes back down, but then when those people get out, it goes back up. It's just the way those things work.
When you were talking about the problems in the area and you mentioned the auto larcenies, were there any other problems, maybe fighting or other things that you would consider a problem in that area?
The things like simple assaults, disorderly conducts, spread across the week were not shocking at all. When you looked at the midnight to 2 a.m. time period, almost half of those types of crimes occurred just in that window. So overall, in the district, no, there was nothing there that was surprising or shocking. When you looked at just those 2 hours, the rates get a little bit higher, and I think that's what we need to focus on from our police presence there, from cooperation with the clubs and businesses. We maybe look at the environment, lighting, and ingress and egress and flow of traffic. We'll look at a lot of things there. It's not just as simple as throwing 5 more police officers down there. It's going to be a team effort, and we'll concentrate and focus on those 2 hours of the morning, and particularly in that 4-block area along Mosley of what we can do better.
When you mentioned that you guys had looked at what other peer cities were doing, what types of things did you hear about?
There was a lot of interesting things, and Chase Fossey from the city manager's office did the research on that. And we looked at Colorado Springs, they have a downtown area which is very similar to ours, the Kansas City, Missouri Power and Light District, Oklahoma City, Bricktown, Omaha, Nebraska, Old Market area, Sioux City downtown area, and Chase continues today to look for peer studies. But I thought, in certain areas, they emphasize the fact that they want clientele to be over the age of 21. I'm not saying that's what we'll do here, but it's part of the discussion. They do some very interesting things with scanners. For example, when people go into a club, they can scan their ID, and if they are cause a problem or are kicked out of that club, then all of the clubs through that scanning methodology will have that information so they can communicate better back and forth. In a lot of these areas, the clubs do communicate regularly and frequently with one another, and we all agreed in Old Town that we could do that better, communicate back and forth between businesses and clubs. So there's a lot of interesting things out there, and even talking about controlling ingress or egress and access to the area. There's some interesting things I think we can talk about, and I think it's going to come down to what the association will make those decisions as far as if they want to change business practices. But there's some unique opportunity here.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Charlie, have you seen the businesses make any immediate changes since the shooting happened?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't believe anyone's done anything. But we had a final Friday just last Friday, and there was as many or more people than there have been at past final Fridays. It's nice weather, but I think it's there were still a lot of people coming to Old Town.
And so you really haven't seen a change in traffic at all?
Not that, no, I haven't.
Chief, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how this survey process will work.
Well, we're constructing a survey right now in conjunction with the Old Town Association that's going to be more of a global customer service type of instrument. There'll be some public safety questions on there. And then the goal here is in later April to have an Old Town Association combination police group go out and distribute that survey to customers all times of day or night, the businesses all times of day or night. We'd like to get 300 or 400 samples of survey, bring that back in, look at that analysis to go along with our crime analysis, and make any further decisions as far as action plans after that time.
It'll be good to get the input from the actual users.
Yes, sure.
Charlie, is there anything else you'd like to share about maybe what you're hearing from the Old Town merchants?
I think the only thing I hear is people want the public to know that Old Town's safe, businesses are doing fine down there. There's even a couple of new restaurants that have just opened in the last month, and they've really taken off. So we haven't seen any drop off in the number of people that come to Old Town, and we want people to come on down and have a good time.
I'm sure they will. Thank you both for being here. And thank you for watching the City 7 News Now Update.